and will come to the session, the Palestinian question in historical perspective. We will be holding this session with the presence of Salman Abu Sitta, President of the Palestinian Land Society. Professor Abu Sitta,
Thank you.
one.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. Great thanks to the University of Barcelona, our friends and supporters of peace and freedom in Palestine. Thanks also to the organizers who have helped organize this. I mentioned Mar and also Oscar and all the others who, in the past few weeks, organized this. My greatest thanks is to the Spanish people, Spain in general, who supported the right of Palestinians for freedom all along. Thank you all very much. I come to you from the land without a people. I come to you from those invisible Arab people whose ancestors left Grenada in 1492 after 8 centuries of rich, cultured, and memorable common history with you. In this same year, 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed from this glorious city, Barcelona, to discover the new world, so he thought. This world became today, for us, the invisible people of Palestine, became the creator of a Nakba and the agent of genocide. Yes, indeed, I come here to the welcoming, friendly Barcelona from Palestine, the so-called land without a people. Our enemies preached the myth in the 19th century Europe. They preached that Palestine is a land without people. This was preached by the foes of the Jews whom they wanted to get rid of, and by the Ashkenazi Jews who wanted to make out of Palestine a state for them, and they wanted to invade my country. The corollary to this statement is this land, which is my country, will be for a people without a land, meaning the Jews. Well, that was the doctrine which caused more than a century of death and destruction, hundreds of thousands killed, and millions of people became hopeless, homeless, and destitute. The Zionists adopted this claim as their creed. They knew it was false. They knew it was false, that Palestine was not empty. But because of the 19th century stream of travelers, priests, officers, spies, and colonial adventurers, they all wrote that Palestine is not empty. It has people there for 4,000 years. How then the claim that Palestine is empty be explained? Well, today the explanation is loud and clear. It was not a myth. It was a plan by the Zionists to make Palestine a land without people. And that is the origin. Today, after 100 years, you see the genocide in Gaza to make Palestine a land without people. So it started actually the making Palestine a land without people in 1948. It was the original plan of the Haganah in 1948 during its invasion of Palestine, when they depopulated 530 cities and villages through dozens and dozens of massacres. I wish to remind you with another facet of the crimes against Gaza. For the last 600 days, we have seen the Western campaign of war, tanks, planes, millions of dollars, UN vetoes poured against Gaza, assisting Israel in its war crimes. What is the motive for that? To save remaining 50 hostages who are actually Israeli settlers in our occupied land? But nobody at all speaks of the real long-time hostages. Here they are. These red dots you see are the homes of the Palestinian hostages in Gaza. They were expelled from 247 towns and villages in southern Palestine by Israel in 1948 through 90 massacres. They poured them into a small place called today Gaza Strip. And what is Gaza Strip? It is a small area remaining of Palestine. Its area is 1.3% of Palestine. And these Palestinians who were expelled from their home, they are crammed in 10 refugee camps in this area, which is called now Gaza Strip. And they have been held hostage for 28,000 days. No food, no communication with the rest of the world, blockage from air, land, and sea. And they were hostages for 28,000 days. The West, so-called West, never talked about them. On the contrary, in the 28,000 days, the attack on them never stopped. In 1953, 1956, 1967, 1971, 1982, and constantly from 2005, complete blockage until today, where you see the satellite, the genocide. So here is then the situation which is never mentioned in the West. Now, in this slide, I show you there are two possibilities. If those Palestinians return home to 247 towns and villages, that will be easy. They just walk straight to their homes. And the settlers who are shown in the small t at the bottom are only 150,000. So 150,000 settlers in south of Palestine are taking the homes of 2.3 million Palestinians in 12,500 square kilometers of Palestine. And this is one myth which should be explained. There is another myth which you hear about, that Israel is in a state of self-defense. Is Israel in a state of self-defense? Those settlers who came from Ukraine, Romania, and Poland and so on in smuggler ship to Palestine, are they the ones in self-defense? Let me give you certain facts which very rarely known. The Haganah forces attacked and occupied great parts of Palestine before the British left Palestine, before there is a state called Israel was established, before any Arab regular forces came to save them. This is a map of the land occupied by the Haganah before Israel was established. During the British, all the red areas are occupied by them. The blue dots are villages which have been depopulated at the time. Before Israel was established, they depopulated 220 cities and villages in Palestine before that. And you can see also the massacres which are shown, marked in that. So who is then in the state self-defense? We, the Palestinians who lived in our land before the Ashkenazi Haganah came to us? Or is it those invaders who came and attacked us before there is something called Israel under the protection of the British? So the fact that these false ideas are presented to the West is the cover for them to assist Israel and to deny the human rights of the Palestinians. But I then will show you in progress how the Palestine was occupied. These shows in stages in 1948 how the Haganah step by step took over 78% of Palestine. It shows the name of the brigade, it shows the area occupied. So when you talk about Israel, you are talking about complete invasion of Palestine, increasing their control from 6% under the British to 78% in 1948, which they called Israel. And these facts are very clear to show who are the villain and who is the victim, who is fighting for their right to live in their country, and who are the foreign forces came from overseas to occupy Palestine. And this here now, we define what we mean by a Nakba. A Nakba is the depopulation of 530,000 villages shown in red here. And then they have been depopulated completely and made into refugees. And therefore, the myth that Palestine is empty became true, that Palestine became empty. And then where are the refugees today? They are in camps in what's left of Palestine, in Gaza and the West Bank, and in Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. So they have been attacked all the time since 1948. Everywhere, when the word camp appears on the map, they attacked it. Why? They want to attack the very people whose only aim is to return home. So we have a duty then. We must plan to return to our land. This is the desire and the right and the objective of Palestinians all along. How can this be done? Well, first of all, the international law is on our side. The international law is absolutely on our side. Resolution 194, which have been passed by the United Nations 130 times in the last 70 years, is still valid. It's supported also by many, many other resolutions and conventions in the world. We then ask the first question: where are the Palestinian refugees today? We know where they are. We know their names. We know where they come from, which village. We know their property. We know everything about them. So there is no problem for us as geographers and planners and people interested in application of international law. We have no problem whatsoever of knowing who they are. Here we have a guest here from UNRWA who has the record of that, and we complement that record with every possible means. We have no problem to know who are the Palestinians who are displaced. Second question is, we ask, who lives in their homes today? Well, we had a detailed study. Who lives in the Palestinian refugee land of the Jews today? We made we came with a startling revelation that Israel, or Palestine occupied land called Israel, is practically empty today. How could you say that? Yes, I can show you that most of the lands of the refugees who are expelled is still empty today, and they can return. So here is a detailed study we made. We find that 249 villages had practically no Jews in them, and another similar number has very few Jews called the kibbutz. The rest is empty, and we then discussed the possibility if they can, the kibbutz who occupy the majority of Palestinian refugee land, if they can be evacuated to Tel Aviv or Haifa, or if they like, go back to Poland, then the land of the Palestinian refugees will be available, empty for them. To do that, we have to remind you with certain facts we have found. 90% of the Israeli population live in 77 localities, but that's out of almost 1,000 localities. So that means 90% of the land under Israel occupation remains vacant. The majority of Palestinian villages, lands are vacant. That, of course, will pave the way for the return of the refugees. And I can show you another proof of that. Here is distribution of the Jews in Israel today. You can see they live in numbered localities, 927, but 850 of them, which are the kibbutz, largest number by far, has only 600,000 Jews out of 6 million. So 10% of the Jews in Israel live directly on refugee land, and they live in kibbutz number 850. This situation is very rarely mentioned, but we tried to explain that a bit more, and we found that the concentration of the Jews in Israel today is shown by the blue dots, and the yellow lines show you the line which is empty, completely empty. You can see that. The concentration of population we have found from satellites, from examination of population data, showing that the concentration is in Haifa and around Tel Aviv, plus Western Jerusalem. So the documentation, of course, is supported by other means. All the areas which are not blue are empty. All the areas which are not blue are practically empty. We can put them in buses and remove them. And this is the land of the absolute majority of Palestinian refugees. We can actually show more than that. We can show if they are moved from the kibbutz in Palestinian land to Tel Aviv and Haifa, we have plotted the roads they have to follow from the kibbutz to Tel Aviv and Haifa. And the distance is not great, probably anywhere from 5 minutes to about 45 minutes or 1 hour maximum. So let me just tell you one more thing, which is never mentioned to you. Those settlers in the kibbutz, not one of them has a legal title deed to the land he's occupying. You ask anybody who is in one place, do you have a title deed of the land you are settling on for a Palestinian? Say no, we don't have that. But if you ask a Palestinian, but this is my land, I have a title deed, then the Palestinian will produce title deed. Not one Israeli has a legal title deed of the land he is occupying of Palestinian land. Not one. How are they there? They rent the Palestinian land from so-called Israel Land Administration. Rent a land. But the land legally, internationally, and practically belongs to the Palestinians until today. So here is an example. If we evacuate lands occupied by various groups of population in Israel, we find the following. The one to the right is evacuation of the cities. The yellow area is Palestine land evacuated. You can see it's very little. Why it's very little? Because it's actually Palestinian cities. These are Haifa, Jaffa, Jerusalem, Tulkarm, and others, Kfar Saba. They are Palestinian cities, depopulated. So that's fine. Let them stay there. Second one, next one, is towns. Towns created after 1948. They grew out of cities a little bit. But if you think of all the land to be evacuated by the Jews leaving, you get this to the left, the large yellow area which belongs to Palestinian refugees. So when you evacuate 500,000 settlers from the kibbutz, 9 million Palestinian refugees can return home. This is a fact not to be disputed whatsoever. Even by Israelis, we have studies to confirm that. But they don't tell you about it. They hide it from you. Now, therefore, the next question to say, okay, we want the Palestinians to return to their villages. Do we know where they are? Do we know what their condition is? Yes, we do. Here is satellite pictures. Of course, in the maps, we know where they are. Satellite pictures show you the traces and the debris of the destroyed Palestinian village. These, you can see it in the pink frame. Still today, the debris of the destroyed village can be seen. In all other areas, we trace by satellite the field around the old village, and on the same village, we found traces of debris, stones left, steel iron, doors left. We can, by satellites, outline the exact location of the old destroyed village. Here are two of them. One of them is called Karatia, and shown here. And you see in the top left picture what the Israelis built, but not in the village place. And the other one here inside the frame, a village called Beit Atha. We can trace them absolutely correctly, not only in land, but also by satellites. So we then ask, why don't we plan for the full return to one village? We call it Suhmata. Suhmata village is in Upper Galilee, and its people are refugees in Rashidiyya camp in Lebanon. All right, let's do that. And we started by selecting one person as a symbol of the people of Suhmata. His name is Ahmad Abu Maher al-Yamani. Ahmad Abu Maher al-Yamani was born in Suhmata. In 1948, he became a refugee in Lebanese Rashidiyya camp in Lebanon. All his life, he fought for the return. He was a leader of resistance troops. He was a leader of popular committees for the return. He was a leader for representation at the United Nations, everywhere, to demand the right of return. I selected him because he is born in Suhmata and he was fighting for it. Now, where is Suhmata? Can we identify where Suhmata is? Yes, we can. We have series of maps in Palestine at different dates. We can see how it developed, and it remained actually not destroyed until 1960, when finally we find from satellite pictures that it was destroyed 10 years later in 1960. Here is its last picture when it was destroyed. In the yellow area, there was Suhmata, but remains of Suhmata can be identified on the ground. So now the red points are depopulated villages by Israel. We want to know where Maher Yamani is. He is in a refugee camp called Rashidiyya. Do we know how to reach that? Yes, we do. We have the road from Rashidiyya camp on the road of return to Suhmata on this way. It is 41 kilometers. You don't need airplanes or ships to do that. People can walk and reach it. So when they do reach it, we have to reconstruct it. We started 9 years ago in London a competition among Palestinian young architects. Each one would choose a village, his own village probably, and he will reconstruct it as young architect, as it was in the same place, but of course with more population since that time, 10 times more. And the competition went on now for its ninth year. 330 Palestinian architects participated. At the moment, they completed the reconstruction of 60 Palestinian villages, complete from beginning to end and in the same location like that. And here is their design for Suhmata village, and we did something I think was very interesting. We brought the young team of architects who designed the Suhmata, let them meet the people of Suhmata who are in refugee villages in Lebanon. And they met with them, and they actually explained to the people of the village how they built their new village. The old people asked, where is the house of so-and-so? Where is the mosque? Where is the house? They will tell them where it was. The young people of Suhmata who were not born there, they say, do we have sports club? Yes, we have. Do we have a link, internet link with our friends outside? Yes, you have. And the team leader of this group is a young Palestinian woman. Here she is. In Gaza. She never saw Suhmata, but from the data she killed it. This young woman called Maha Jamil Mansour was killed by Israel last month. She killed in October 23 in her home in Gaza. So these people who build the future are killed. Now we come to the main issue in the news all the time. Gaza, Gaza, Gaza. Gaza is the Stalingrad of Palestine. Gaza is the epitome of suffering and resistance all the time. Not only now, this picture from 2013, when young people in Gaza peacefully go to the barbed wire of their concentration camp, demanding the right to return to Palestine. And they were shot and killed in 2014 and 2018, long before so-called October, long before. So we examine their situation, this part of Gaza Strip. As I said, they are crowded there at 8,000 persons per square kilometer. But now, because they are moved left and north and south, they are crowded at 20,000 persons per square kilometer. And the people who occupy their land, the settlers, they occupy at a density of 7 persons per square kilometer, 1,000 times less. Here they are. You can see it's empty. 7 persons per square kilometer of settlers, and the owner of this very land are crammed, bombed, and killed, starved at 20,000 persons per square kilometer. History have never known any bigger crime known to the whole world. We then, at least theoretically, said, why don't these settlers in southern Palestine go up north, live in Tel Aviv? They are 120,000, less than one refugee camp in Gaza. Send them over to Tel Aviv, and then the land will be free for Palestinians in Gaza to return. So we planned that. We calculated how many buses they need, how many groups there are. We grouped the kibbutz. There are only 220 kibbutz. Kibbutz are small points with 500 persons in each one. And we actually carried out a plan how to take them in buses to the north. And then they were evacuated in less than 7 days. And with that, we then can allow to Palestine to rise from the ashes, and then real peace will prevail in Palestine. But finally, let me correct the record which I started with. I said I come from land without people. No, I do not come from a land without a people. I come from a land with a 4,000-year history. My roots are deep in this land before the barbarians which came from Europe, vomited by Europe to our land. The barbarians who spilled the blood of 190,000 children, 19,000 children, made 16,000 children orphan, made 12,000 children amputees. The barbarians who made Nagasaki, Hiroshima, Auschwitz like a training ground. The barbarians who were vomited by the West, but cradled, supported, financed, and protected by the very same West to complete their evil deeds. The barbarians who destroyed every sign of human civilization, schools, universities, hospitals, nurseries, mosques, churches, and homes. The barbarians who created a new definition of the word evil, never known before. The barbarians who not only snuffed the innocent human life, but silenced the truth and punished those who preach it. The barbarians who followed the steps of their Western allies, who 1,000 years ago waded in Jerusalem up to their knees in blood of the people of Jerusalem. I say to them and to all those who support them, I say to them and to all those who support them, Palestine will triumph. Palestinians will survive. Palestinians will return home, and they will build a monument of human endurance. Palestine will be an example of the courage and humanity to the whole world. Palestine will rise from the ashes, and Palestine will be free from the river to the sea. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart, Professor Abu Sitta, for being here with us today. And my question is, what is to be done here in Spain and Western Europe to fight for and facilitate this return of the Palestinian people to their homes and free Palestine from the river to the sea? Thank you.
Hi ha una altra aquí.
I wanted to ask which village or which area do you come from? And
Queda alguna més o tanquem aquí ja? Una aquí.
Thank you, Dr. Salman. I have a question, specific questions. So, have you been asked about the implications of your plan, the practical plan, whether it might have implications for quote unquote the transfer? Number one. Secondly, how have anti-Zionist Jews, Israelis responded to it? What would that look like? And how have other Palestinians from like refugee camps and so on have responded to it? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. What Spain can do, I rely so much on young people. Young people have two qualities which some Western politicians don't have. First of all, the young people in the universities have fresh mind, and they have open mind, and they have access to knowledge, so they know the truth. Politicians, either they are ignorant in the academic sense, or they know the facts and hide them. So the young people in the universities are extremely important force because of this quality. The second quality for the young people is that they don't have material wealth or positions to be afraid they will be lost. They don't have millions. They don't receive bribes from certain parties. They don't expect certain positions in price of voting in the wrong way. No, they don't. So they speak their mind, and therefore they are now the power in the world from east to west in all universities, speaking out in favor of Palestine, which the others, these politicians, Western politicians in particular, Western Europe politicians and US politicians, cannot do. So in answer to your question, the force which you have is to spread the truth, no more. Just spread the truth. Let people all the time around the truth. I have a saying I repeat it in every lecture. Who is afraid of the truth? Only the criminals, only the one who committed the crime. He is the one who is afraid of the truth. So the essential thing for universities anywhere, and of course in Spanish in particular, in addition also to popular societies, groups of workers, group of engineers of societies, and all kinds, they should speak up. They say there is a crime committed, and every crime committed in which I know and not do anything, I consider myself complicit. And therefore, the greatest threat to Zionism is not only weapons taken away from them, but also truth to be spread around the world. Because for 70 years, I, a refugee, I am considered to be the villain, the bad person. But the person who came from Ukraine and Poland to take my home, he is the good person, and I am the bad person. So the truth should be spread. And the second question relates to that. Somebody said, where do I come from? I come from a place called Al-Ma'in. My family on written record lived there, written record, for 200 years, and maybe more than that if we have records. And this Al-Ma'in is 2 kilometers from the edge, armistice line of Gaza Strip. They built 4 kibbutz on my land: Narim, Nir Oz, Ain Yashrusha, and Magan, 4 of them. And I could have returned home if I walked 2 kilometers across the hill from the barbed wire in Gaza Strip. Yet I am denied to do that for 77 years. My daughter, born outside Al-Ma'in, the first generation in my family to be born outside my home place. And when they say people from Gaza went across the barbed wire to Narim, they are called criminals, and they are called all kinds of names, but they are simply returning home. They are simply returning home. And I'm pleased that 1 month ago in London, in a theater called Curzon Theatre, I had a project with the University of London called Forensic Architecture. Some of you may have heard it. Together we recreated Al-Ma'in for 200 years, from data, from maps, from aerial photos, and they represented their findings in a theater of 200 people. It will be available online soon, so you will know where I come from. The last question is, I don't know what the last question is. Your question about the plan. The plan I made, I started this plan, developing the plan over the last 10 years. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, one fact. Not one single Israeli disputed my facts. And they tried very hard. You know, they have so many universities and so on. And they are published. I published them in English, Arabic, and every language. And every time we have a new edition of information. Today you heard the latest edition. Not one, no geographer, no historian in Israel or anywhere disputed the facts I gave. They disputed me. They saying, you are causing trouble. You are causing this and that and that. But did you disagree with anything I tell you? Not one, not one, not one. And so the fulfillment of that is that the word should be spread around. Not only right of return for Palestinians is sacred in their hearts and they will never get up. Not only that it has been supported by the United Nations in Resolution 194 130 times, not only that it is mentioned in every convention of human rights, but also it is feasible. It's also possible. We don't necessarily push the people, the Israelis, anywhere else unless they go voluntarily. We don't say that. We are only saying stay in the same places where you were during the British Mandate. Don't take my home and kill me or kick me out. We say, you want to stay in Tel Aviv? Go ahead. But you cannot stay in a place where its people are refugees in any refugee camp, and now you bomb them and starve them and you apply genocide in them. What kind of equation is that? I'll tell you, you stay in where you were before. But there is one condition which must be applied, that there is no Zionism, that like Nazism, it will be abolished. Its components should be abolished, that apartheid, crime, war crimes, genocide, all kinds of components of Zionism must be abolished. There is no negotiation on that. Just like anywhere in the world, when the settlement colonization projects ended, it ended with the doctrine of the colonizer. In Germany, Nazi has been abolished. In Italy, fascism has been abolished. In Algeria, the French left. In South Africa, the Afrikaans reconciled to be normal citizens everywhere. In India, in Portuguese had a colony. They left and left it to their people in India. The British left Mackay and Hong Kong in India after 300 years. So all these abnormal creations of colonialism in a medium which is strange to them and a medium which is homogeneous for the people there have no future. But we have to make that happen, because Zionism, unlike any other colonial project in the past, is supported by the West, supported by ideology, by a story, historical story which is entirely false, by arms and bombs. While children are killed, they are sending them bombs all the time. I mean, there is no project like that, which means that I think it's abomination on the history of the world. And therefore, we, the people of the world, must always rise and never give up. And accepting this or be silent about it is making us complicit. And you people here are here because you don't accept that. And again, I thank you and thank the people of Spain. Thank you.
Okay?